Hello and welcome back to the 18th North Carolina Volunteers of Company A, and welcome back to another Friday event with the German Volunteers and the United European Companies. This engagement will be fought on Reno's Fall, one of the South Mountain maps in the game of War of Rights today. Today we've got quite a large server, filled up almost to the brim, with 2 units on the Confederate side, the 18th North Carolina and the 8th Alabama, with the Union team being composed of the 20th New York, the 39th New York, and our friends from the 4th New Jersey. So overall, quite a nice matchup, I would say. The 8th Alabama will be fighting as a split detachment, since they brought something like 45 guys today, so that's rather impressive. The rules are as usual in any of the UEC/German Volunteers events, meaning that fighting is to be done in formations, and that, if not otherwise specified, skirmishing is not allowed. Similarly, scouts are only allowed to be moving in groups of 2, with messengers being allowed to run independently in between companies. As you can tell, the Confederates adopted a very aggressive stance within the first couple of minutes of the game, with the 18th North Carolina aggressively pushing through the forest and driving the Union pickets from the fence line, while the 8th Alabama decided to take the 20th New York head-on in a rather vicious firefight, also within the first couple of seconds of the match, which led to a number of casualties along the road and an overall shift in the battle line as the Union withdrew back to the cornfield and the safety of the fence line there.
First platoon, shift to the left. Platoon, follow me, follow me.
After the Blue Bellies beat a hasty retreat, the 8th Alabama decided it was time to push up along the stone wall to get a good line of sight and a vicious crossfire onto the capture point, in which the 4th New Jersey was still trapped. Yet they did not expect the arrival of Garibaldi's sons, the brave 39th New York. Dio el popolo!
At the ready!
Got it!
Weg von der Mauer! Rechts verstärken!
First spawn, sorry. Second platoon home.
After having been bloodily repulsed by the efforts of the 8th Alabama and the 18th North Carolina, the Yankees decided it was about time something else was tried, a stealth approach. They attempted a very long sneaky flank with the 20th New York and went mostly unnoticed. Mostly.
Hauptsache ist wir kämpfen schön und treiben den Starter.
Dieser Timer macht mich manchmal echt fertig, ne? Ah, da ist es.
Tschüss.
Was macht ihr denn hier? Da haut mal ab.
Yankee Scout. Noch ein Yankee Scout.
Direkt hinter uns.
Direkt hinter uns.
Second Platoon.
Einheit.
Second Platoon, about face. Ready. Aim.
Südwesten im Wald, eine dunkle Linie. Reload.
After a short and intense firefight, in which the Galing Fire of the 8th Alabama played viciously on the Yankees of the 20th New York, they withdrew into the forest and appeared soon after at a very unexpected place, as Captain Winkler of the 18th North Carolina would find out.
Das ist Union. About face.
About face.
An den Knickzaun, Jungs. Feindeinheit Richtung Westen. Eine direkt vor uns. Battle Flag, du stehst auf der falschen Seite. Fire at will!
Da ist die dritte Einheit.
Knapp Weber!
Hinter den Zaun, meine Herren.
Ach ja, komm mal her, komm mal du her.
In the meantime, the 39th New York had taken up the old position of the 20th New York along the road in the forest. But we're about to find out that Alabama steel can be quite deadly indeed. With an enormous loss of life, the 8th Alabama was able to defeat the 39th New York in the forest, while the 18th North Carolina was still occupied by the vicious fire of the 4th New Jersey, which were still held up in the cap point. Undeterred by the initial failure of their flank attack, the 20th New York tried once again to get into the rear of the Confederates. Did they manage it this time?
Fire.
Stand heute. Die Kiefer fest.
Das ist eine große Linie.
Kannst du nie. Take aim. Fire.
The 4th New Jersey found itself between a rock and a hard place, as they were now being pounded by 3 infantry companies, the 18th North Carolina and both detachments of the 8th Alabama, with increasing musket fire dwindling away their numbers ever so quickly.
Captain!
As the 8th Alabama noted that enemy guns were being moved upon them, they decided to give him the cold steel and rush him with the bayonet.
Komm her, renn!
As they had fought outnumbered and outgunned for most of the match, trapped on the cap point, it was quite a sight to behold when the 39th New York finally joined the fray and fell in with them on the cap point to support them. But now, 2 of the Union units were trapped in the cap point between a rock and a hard place, volleys coming in as quickly as men could load their pieces. A truly devilish fight. And once again the call went up from the Alabamians' ranks. To the guns! To the guns! Get those guns! And once again, the 39th stepped into their way.
Fight in Rücken.
Okay, seize! Fall back,
Fight
fall
in
back,
front,
fall back,
fight
fall
in
back!
front.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah, got it.
After having pushed through the forest quite aggressively, the 20th New York was able to take up the former position of the 8th Alabama on the road, and thus commenced pouring a murderous fire down the lane into the rears of the Alabamians who were just recovering from their charge against the enemy artillery position. But Weber had forgotten about one unit that was operating in their flank. The 18th North Carolina was on the hunt.
Es wäre geraten.
You're on. Das Ding ist... Alter, das Ding ist...
And thus, finally, remnants of the 1st platoon of the 8th Alabama and remnants of the 18th North Carolina managed to get the kill on the 20th New York, driving them out of the forest and into the open where they were gunned down mercilessly. In a last-ditch effort to regain control over the fighting, the 39th New York bravely pushed onto the road and was welcomed there by a hail of musket balls and minet balls from the rifles of the 18th North Carolina and 2nd Platoon of the 8th Alabama. The fighting was going against the Union on this day. And on they came, rushing like a blue tidal wave, sweeping out of the cornfield towards the cap point in a last-ditch attempt to win the day. But it was all in vain, and all for nothing, as the 18th North Carolina and 8th Alabama were awaiting them eagerly, with muskets loaded and ready.
Folgendes vor uns, Südost, auf der Straße. Wenn ihr nicht rankommt und da Sperrzone ist, dann schießt und zieht euch sofort wieder hierher zurück. Reinfällt, stellt sie
The guns that were still threatening the right flank of the Confederate position along the stone wall were taken out by a gallant charge of the 18th North Carolina, led by Captain Winkler.
Er geht rechts rüber, hör auf. Stell dir vor.
Fuga, Fuga.
Okay, wir desertieren. Ja, der ist tot, zurück.
With those pesky guns silenced and all rifles available to defeat the Yankee horde, it was only a matter of time until the blue waves lost the cap and were thrown back. They put up a good fight, but they were no match for the 18th North Carolina and the 8th Alabama, the furious German volunteers.
Wenn ihr nachladen.
Stand behind the rocks.
How the fuck are we
We have less men.
We need to take them.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed our little engagement that we had today. I hope we will see you soon again, when the German volunteers go hunting again. Tar heel, and greetings from the 18th North Carolina.